welcome to Carol on Creativity. My name is Carol Peters, and today we're in the studio and we're going to learn how to draw portraits. Draw and shade, and I've got two great guests and I'm going to have them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Melanie Reynisson.
And
I'm Brandy Mingus.
And both are former students and now have gone on and they're doing all kinds of wonderful things. Melanie went to the art.
I went to the Academy of Art University in San Francisco, where I studied fine art, drawing, painting, and sculpture.
And Brandy is now...
I'm now a student and working at actually 2 bars and a full-time mom.
That's great. So we're going to have Brandy to be the model, and Melanie is going to be sketching Brandy, and then I'm going to show you some really basic techniques of how to start if you've never started a portrait before. And it's really very simple. A lot of people get very frightened because they think it's something very intimidating. We're going to start by looking at a photo. This is someone very recognizable, especially this year. He's been in the media all over the place, Michael Jackson. This is a flat surface. We're working in a two-dimensional arena here, and later we're going to visit Marlene Amerian, who's a sculptor, and she's going to talk about sculpting a portrait. But right now our task is to take this flat surface that you see and turn it into something that looks real. We know Michael Jackson's face is not sticking out, but what makes it dimensional is the lights and darks on the face. You can see when something comes forward, it's lighter. When it goes back, it's darker. So for example, the nose here is lighter, and as it goes back, it's a little darker. It's a little darker in here. The hair is so dark that it actually blends into this dark background. And you don't care. You don't have to put in every line. If you do not see it, please don't put it in, because that doesn't look real. We'll move over to Bruce Lee. Bruce Lee, this is a painting I did for my son James quite a while ago. And I did it on a canvas that I actually stretched. It's very textured, so it has a lot of texture to the feel of it. It's in black and white, and then I actually added red into the background because that's such an exciting color, and it really gives that, you know, that fierce feeling. But you can see this side of the face is in dark. I'm just going to move this over. So you have this in dark. You know that the face is not that dark all the way, but because the shadow is there, it's in dark. And it looks like he broke his nose because it is an irregular bend in here. There's a dark shadow under in his lip as well. So I'm going to take you over here. You can just follow me to the other Bruce Lee. This is another Bruce Lee that is all red and black. 2 colors only, light and dark. In this case, it's very, very stylized. I actually worked from a photo, and I just looked at it. There's shadow here, there's shadow here, there's shadow in the hand and here, up in here. So that creates that dimension, and actually using light and dark in a dynamic way, putting these angles in makes him look fierce. You know, if you have like sharp angles, that really helps make somebody look powerful and fierce. Now Melanie has brought a celebrity, and she's going to show you her work, because it's fun to draw celebrities. A lot of my students, you know, had a favorite and they always brought them out, and we helped draw them.
So for one of my projects in school was to draw a celebrity, and I chose another recognizable person, and that's Snoop Dogg, a rapper. We had to use the same concepts that you would do in a portrait, the lights and darks, and in this case we had to use kind of a monochromatic, very similar to the Bruce Lee that Carol showed you earlier. So we had to do, basically the darks would be a very, very dark red, almost into black, and then the lights we just tried to pick up white and some oranges and reds. Same thing here with the blue. You can see lighter blue here, very little white actually in this picture, but you could see the dimensions, the very, very dark underneath his neck, kind of around his hat and his hair, and some of the shadow marks. So it's all kind of the same concept, whether you're drawing in black and white, monochromatic, or in full color.
The principles remain the same, and we're going to show you easy ways to shade. I want to just pick this one up, Melanie, because this is a really great self-portrait that you did while you were in school. And you can actually start with a pencil drawing and then show them the painting. That's this,
I think the painting's right
painting
behind.
is from the drawing.
And that's right behind
And
you.
it's right behind me. We'll put it over this
Other man.
portrait of man.
Yeah, this one's the self-portrait, not. So we took a regular sketch using charcoal, which we're going to show you a little later, and then converted it into a painting. So it's the same exact concept, the same lights and darks, and just using paint instead of a pencil.
And I always talk about value, which is the light and dark of one color. And you can see in the Snoop Dogg and in the Bruce Lee how powerful that is, because it really, really comes across. Okay, thank you. I think we'll move over here just so I can get a couple more in. This is a pencil drawing. I did of my husband a long time ago. And I just wanted you to see how it's a light and dark and it's really soft. It's with pencil as well, so you can get a likeness. This is one that I did for a, it's actually going to be used on a book back cover. And the author, you know, just had a picture on the website. It was a little small black and white. And I took it off and I painted it, and then I used a lot of thick acrylic and I carved a poem into the background. So it was made a little flatter for a book cover. All right, now we're going to look at our model without any light at all and show how a light source really makes a difference.
So once you have a single light source placed directly on the model, you can see now all of a sudden we have appearance of shadows. Shadows under the nose, under the lips, under the neck. That helps create depth. If you didn't have the light source, it would just be one flat image. And that's basically it.
And sometimes if you're standing like where I am, you can hardly see the other side of the face, and that seems in darkness. So it also depends on where you're standing and where you're drawing. So that's it for the light source. Basically what we're going to be doing is looking at the holes in your head, because that's where the shadows are. So if you're lucky enough to have a skull, you can check it out, and anything that goes back is darks. And you can feel your face. If it protrudes, you know it comes forward, it's going to be lighter. If you can push your hand against your eyebrow and your cheekbone, and that hole is there. It protects your eye as well. So the cheekbones are here. The nose is a cartilage, so this actually comes forward with cartilage out, but the bone ends here. So you can see it, and the head is large, and that's one of the things I want to explain, because people always cut a portrait down too short. Here we have the breakdown of how to begin a face. Okay, it's really super easy. You draw a great big egg, and I'll do this, and I'll actually draw one. Halfway down are the eyes. And a lot of people don't believe me in class. They're going, no, this can't be, that's too low. Well, what happens is your hair covers this up. So it's just a formula. You can see here, this is from CSI. This is one of the detective actors, and he had a little article, and I ripped it out, and it showed how that was his favorite way of drawing, and he actually did the same thing to get, you know, the proportions. So halfway between the eyes and the chin is the nose. So if you just think half, 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 you're going to be fine. Pretty much halfway between the nose and the mouth, the nose and the chin is the mouth. If you drop a line between the corner of the eye down, you're going to get the side of the nose. Okay. And if you drop a line from the middle of the eye down, you're going to get the corner of the mouth. So it's just like a math problem. It's very, very simple. So we're going to start sketching. I'm going to just show you basically an eye, the stages of how to do an eye. And I'm going to be using a piece of chalk. Melanie, you're going to be using?
I'm going to use some vine charcoal and also some compressed charcoal.
Okay. So basically your tools are pretty simple. Lots of pencils. These are real dark ebony pencils, charcoal pencils, white charcoal. You don't need much. Pencil sharpener. You never want to put anything soft in a manual sharpener. It'll just eat it up. These are cool little things. These are little shading stubs, and they're called tortillions, which is kind of sounds like pasta, you know. And they are nice to shade with, little small areas. But people see these and they actually think, oh my gosh, this is so cool. And they start shading and they actually make lines. So this is the end. This is the end result. What's best to shade with is just a piece of Kleenex, piece of paper towel, something like that, soft. There are a lot of different types of pencils that you can use. The number 2 pencil is a good way to start because it's very, very light. You don't want to put a real heavy line down when you first start drawing because then you're committed to it. So sketch very, very lightly and just kind of take a look and see what you have. Then when you go to the darks, this is an ebony pencil and it has the name ebony pencil right on it. So it's not a hard thing to find. And it's a great pencil because it's really super dark. And it'll give you those nice, nice charcoal blacks without the powder and without all this mess. These are also charcoal pencils. Now they'll be labeled charcoal. You can get different kinds of brands. There's softer ones, there's denser ones, and you'll find that you'll have your favorites. There's also white, the white pencils, and these are to actually bump up areas that you really want to have in a light source. So these are great too. As I said, buy a little metal sharpener because otherwise you'll just grind your little pencil all the way down right away. These are also great to have, and I didn't point them out. Soft erasers. This is a nice soft eraser. This is a nice soft eraser. You don't want to use the eraser on your pencil because that just makes it really, really digs into the paper. You also really don't want to erase a lot. For example, if you erased on your paper and then you went over and shaded it, where you erased would pick up a line. And that's not a good idea. So erasing, try to do light lines until you know where they are, and then, you know, if you have to pick up something and you want to erase it, this is a kneaded eraser. A kneaded eraser is like kneading bread. You can just move it around. So if you need a little small point like this, and you want to, excuse me, you want to pick up, say, a highlight in an area that maybe you think you need some more light, it bumps it right away, takes it up. So you can see right, whoops, my hands are so dirty, contaminated. But you can see it just bumps it right in there. So you can actually work with this as well. So it's a really great little tool, this kneaded eraser. And then if it gets dirty, you can just move it around. So that works out great. So there's a lot of different tools. This is basically what you would use for using a charcoal or a vine charcoal or an ebony pencil kind of drawing. Okay, so Melanie's going to be sketching Brandy, and I'm going to be doing a large eye, and she's just going to be going, you know, on a drawing so that we have something in progress and then the step-by-step over here. And feel free to, you know, tell them how you're going to start, and then I'll start working on this.
I'm going to start using the same principles that Carol spoke of earlier, kind of the basic egg design or egg shape. And usually I'll measure out the person's shape of their face and kind of where to put their eyes, their nose, their mouth, using either my stick. Usually I'm a little bit further away. You can extend your hand and use it as a measuring tool. But basically just getting that oval shape in there is kind of just the start. And I know it doesn't look like much, but it'll end up being Brandy, hopefully.
Okay, so we're going to go right to the eyes. First thing you want to do is sketch the outline of the eye. And an eye is basically, it's kind of like a elongated, it's not a circle. Don't do a circle if you're doing a realistic eye. This is a circle if it continues on up. So you want to make sure that you have that, and just in your brain, think of it going all the way up. Same thing with a pupil. You basically do not want to do an eye like this, leaving the white all the way around, okay? You're not going to see even a scared person doesn't do that. And then I have seen this. No. So we're going to take it step by step. So this is how you would start. Then you would, usually people have an eyelid line, okay? And we're drawing, Asian eyes are a little different. So these, you have to actually look at the people, but basically this is Caucasian, you know, black eye. Inside you have a light source. So we start shading this. This is the outline. You start shading. This is going to be dark, but you don't want to make it solid because there's light reflecting in people's eyes. So put a little light source in there and then just start shading it in. Shade it in, coming from the top because there's always a shadow coming down. And then it gets lighter as usually it comes around. And in the corners, it'll be a little darker in here because your eye curves out. Okay, and on the corners here. And then the pupil come in from the side. If you look at people's eyes, they're almost like a stone. They look to me like if you look at, you know, a beautiful stone in a ring, they almost have these crunchiness to them. It's blue eyes have a lot of green, brown, hazel. What color are your eyes, Brandy?
Hazelish?
Hazelish, yeah. They're a little dark on the top and green at the bottom.
And what color are you have a boy or a girl?
I have a boy.
And what color are his eyes?
Dark brown.
And do you see any other colors in it or just dark brown?
Yeah, his are pretty solid.
Some people have like amber, you know, in the dark. So, you know, here. And then you can add the eye lines kind of come out. What thoughts do you have, Melanie, on doing eyes?
I think the main thing is just to make sure that you keep, again, the pupil and the top of the eye toward, or the actual color part of the eye toward the top of the eyelid, and not make just a complete circle. Part of the eyelid does cover over the top part of the eye, and that makes it look real. It makes it look like it's going backward. If you just have the circle on there, they look like they've had too much caffeine or been up all night, or it just doesn't look right. It's a little scary.
Yeah.
So to make it realistic, you really need to kind of make it look like there are folds in the eye, and that's the way to do it, is just to start on one end of the eyelid. I usually do the top really dark and kind of the bottom a little bit lighter.
Yeah, me too. And also, I'm using some soft chalk, so I'm doing it for television because it's really dark and it really blends easy. But I can actually take this and use it to draw with, to shade with. And what Melanie is saying, the same thing. This goes all the way up, so this is where you want to continue the circle in your mind, but you don't actually want to put it there, and drop it from the top lid. Another trick, take your shadow and go right across the lid like this, and that's exactly what Melanie was saying. What happens is it creates that shadow on the top of the white, and that's really a good idea. When you do eyelashes, they go out toward, the nose would be in here, and the eyelashes would come this way, okay? And what I always used to say is do them toward the ear, so they're becoming, and they're not straight like that. Okay, they curve out, and a good way to do it is draw a little circle and then lift up your hand, and what happens is it kind of roots it in there and it brings it out. So you have this really nice, you know, kind of eye. So I'm going to continue on to the nose, and Melanie's still drawing Brandy. I put a paper in between, so. All right, this is the nose. The nose is kind of like everybody's worst nightmare, I guess. You know, you look at people's eyes, but the nose, you know, what do you do? Seen a lot of crazy looking noses. drawn.
Yeah.
Basically, they make something that looks like this.
Like on SpongeBob or something.
Brandy has a great nose.
Yeah, you do have a good nose.
You know, it's really bad. You're drawing your friends and then they're like, that doesn't look like me.
That's the hardest part about drawing someone you know, is you want to make sure it looks like them, and yeah, you're not drawing that nose on them.
You sketch the outline, and I think the easiest thing to do is if you draw a line like this, up, down, and up for the bottom of the nose. Okay, so let me just put that in right now. That could be the bottom of the nose, easy. That, if you start with that, that's all you need, basically. So you put that in, and then you just kind of put the sides in, and your eyes are in here. So you just put this basically down from there. And don't put a hard line all the way. There's something called a lost and found line, and artists will talk about a lost and found line. A lost and found line is basically starting your line where the dark is, lifting up your hand and coming back down. Your brain connects it. You don't have to tell your viewer every single little piece, every leaf on the tree, everything. They can get it because they've seen stuff. So a lost and found line is a real good way to create movement and also get your contour in. So then you start shading. We said the sides of the nose go back, they're darker, put a little bit of shadow here, a little bit of shadow there because it goes underneath. And then you just continue to shade it, looking at whatever you're looking at, if it's a person, if it's a picture, if, you know, if it's, you're drawing from a museum. Sometimes I see people in a museum and they're sketching statues or something like that. Just look at what you're drawing and then shade that in. So that's my big trick for this one, the bottom of the nose. And the lost and found line is basically lifting your hand and pushing down. So you can see how Melanie's using that on Brandy over there.
Yeah, the angle that I'm sitting is a little bit more difficult because you're kind of, I'm sitting below her eye level, so looking up at her nose, it makes it difficult too. You want to make sure you don't kind of make a pig nose, you know, when you're looking at that angle. So you have to be real careful you don't outline the whole thing, that you leave it real soft and just kind of get a little bit of the shadows in there.
And I'm going very dark because I want you to, it's exaggeration for the camera. So Brandy, how are you feeling over here?
The hardest part is being a model, having to remain still for this long.
So you just opened the restaurant at the old City Hall. Now it's called Les Errands. Is there any funny stories you can relate that are going on in there? First opening night, anything happen?
No, I think it's too soon.
Too soon.
I've only been open 2 weeks today. I haven't had the pleasure of working on a Friday night yet. I only do days there, so I'm not there for all the madness.
Well, I'm sure there'll be some stories.
It'll be coming.
This is the mouth. We're going to do this step by step. You do the outline of the mouth. It's pretty much, you know, like a curved line at the top and then an oval on the bottom, and then just follow that curve in the middle. Don't put a straight line in between because it's not like that. And so you sketch the outside of the mouth, curve on the bottom, curve on the top, follow the curve, and then you start to shade. Where is the mouth, like forward and back? And actually you can see on the model, the forward part is lighter in the center because it comes forward, and a lot of people actually leave it white in the middle, and then it gets darker on the sides, it's darker underneath because your mouth is coming forward. So basically you just start blocking it in. And again, I'm doing it also from an angle, so it's a little messy, and you can't really get, I don't want to cover it up so you can't see it, but. And you know it's rounded this way. You have to think too, this is contoured around. If I did it this way, I would flatten that thing completely out. So you always want to move your hand in the direction of what you're doing. In this case, we're going to make this look round by just adding, there's lines in your lips too. There's those little tiny lines, and trust me, as you get older, they're not little tiny anymore. They're really there. So that makes a difference too. If you're drawing a baby, babies have very little shadow. So, you know, you don't have to put a lot of shading in. If you're doing an older person, man, you got a lot of work ahead of you. Because they have a lot of wrinkles, a lot of stuff going on. So basically you would just do that. And you can always use this. It's nice and soft. You can blend it around. You know, get it in. Doing this quick so you can see. And if you need to pop out light areas, you can. And this is a messy process because I'm trying to do it quick. So there you go with the lips. So now I'm going to actually do a face, and let's just go over to Brandy for a minute and Melanie while I move this.
So the other thing that is important is when you're sketching the face is that you block in the shadows. The best way to do that is by squinting. You could just squint your eyes and you'll really be able to distinguish the lights from the darks in basic shapes. So usually the typical places where you'll see the shadows, again, are going to be wherever a piece of your face is sticking forward. Directly under that will be a shadow. So under the nose, under the chin, on the side of the nose, and toward the edge of your face. Typically, one side of the face will be shaded versus the other side, and that again helps to create the depth.
Mm-hmm. So I've sketched out just the basic outline here. I'm going to be working on this and just over-exaggerating like I've been doing, not trying to make a beautiful picture for the Louvre or anything right now. We're just doing this for a learning purpose. So we've got the head in here, the big oval. That's how you, whoops. It's hard to do it from the side, you know?
Uh-huh.
It's the big oval. The neck comes down usually from sides of the chin. You blocked in the nose, put in the eyes. And usually it's kind of fun to just think about, you know, the darks and the lights as you draw, because then you won't put your hard line all the way around, although I did here, because there is a line around the eyes. But, you know, you can actually stop. I usually do this and don't even continue down, and then fill that in. And then put the eyelid line. And Brandy, your eyelid line goes way back in. So you probably wouldn't have that. If I was drawing Brandy, you don't even see it. So you have to really look at your person. Do this. And you're basically developing one side of the face, Melanie, on
yours. I tend to do that. I like to see the person starting with their eye and then kind of working on one side and then move on to the next. It just helps me. I like when they look back at you.
Yeah.
It feels more realistic, so.
I like to put the eyes in too. Now, Brandy, you did several portraits in my class.
Mm-hmm, I did a few.
Mm-hmm. Brandy was also, you could actually be drawing too, because you did some. And what are some of the things that you, is there any tips that you could think of that, you know, please feel free to.
No, you're definitely bringing me back to high school with the whole eyes. I remember doing the same demonstration. Never make a complete circle.
Yeah, I know, we were all doing that, you know.
And just the shading techniques, I remember all that.
Mm-hmm. It's fun to do it. It's fun to actually try it. If you've never tried it, you have nothing to lose. It's just, this is butcher paper, and it really is not good. It's like the worst because
it's hard to blend.
Yeah, it doesn't blend. We're using it because it's big. Yeah. And you can see it. You can see all my hand marks. So what I would do if I was on on the table, I would actually put my hand, put a paper down, and then do this, okay? But it's kind of hard when it's up like that, so bear with me. This girl's been gardening or something.
Brandy too. they both have. They've been out there.
They've been in the garden.
A little messy.
Yeah, I'm not going to put any of the details in right now. I'm just going to start showing you a real exaggerated way to shade. Now, the main thing is I love saving these when I'm working because they really work as far as getting your grays in. So we've got this face down. Let's put, we know usually behind the hair, and I'll just go over to Brandy. As this goes back, usually it's dark. Okay, you're going to get dark under here because it's going back around the neck. So I'm just going to put that in now because I know that's dark. No matter what kind of hairdo she has, the ear will be here. It's going to be dark, and I want to pull some dark up. And if you're using a pencil, do the same thing with your pencil. You know what I mean? Just go like that and get a patch of dark, and then take a paper towel and pull it up from that, because it's the same kind of deal. You can use your paper, and what you want is a paper that has a lot of black on it already. So I'm going to take this black. Now you know this head is round. Right now this is flat. It's totally flat. You know the head is round. So what we're going to do is just take this, and we're going to move our hand in the same direction as the line. And you're going to say, what an ever. Okay, and I'm going to make this. And the neck is round. The neck is round this way. So I'm moving my hand this way. And I can actually make her look like she's on a pole if I move it too much. And it's lighter in the middle, darker under the chin. So right away, you got the face starting to look like a contour, hopefully. We looked at the skull. The cheekbones are there, so let's bring them down. And don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. I'm going to throw this thing away in a minute. Now, I'm going to squeeze this because I want to go along the sides of the nose because they're darker. Okay, so I'm going to pull that nose out just by the shadow. And the same thing, if you look at Melanie's, she's doing a slow version over there. She's pulling the nose out the same way, but not quite so quick and not quite so messy. So I got the cheekbones in here, and under the mouth we know is a little darker, under the nose is a little darker, under this is a little darker, the sides in here is a little darker, and all of a sudden it's starting to come out. You know, it's not like flat anymore, which is good. Now, have you drawn your kids, either one of you guys?
No, not yet.
Not yet?
I think kids are fun to draw because they're pretty simple. They don't have they're nice and round, and their cheeks are plump.
Yeah.
There's not too much.
They're almost like little cartoons.
So
That's terrible to say.
My niece and nephew.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, years ago.
And what did you find when you did the little kids, Brandy?
They are easy to draw. Their features are really easy. Eyes.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of lines to them. I just wanted to show you, talking lines, I have this picture. It's a really old picture. We're talking about babies with no lines. This is old. I don't even know if you can see. But you can see how somebody that has a lot of sun or whatever, life, starts to wrinkle. Now this is a real exaggeration of an older person's face. But what you want to do is think about the bulge in the wrinkle. If you're doing somebody really old, it's almost like this. It's almost like this comes forward and then the wrinkle goes back. So it would be darker where the wrinkle is. So that's just another thing to, you know, just in your head. It really makes a difference to think about how things are. Okay, we're going to continue to work. Is there anything else that you want to add?
No, I think it's a pretty simple concept, and I think everyone can try it. Everyone really can just go out there and use that formula and plug in the areas. It's again, like Carol said, it's like a math problem. You know, it's half, half, and half. And just plugging them in, as long as that person's symmetrical, then it comes out looking good.
Yeah, and a lot of times people aren't. Who is the girl that played Brenda on 90210?
Shannon Doherty.
Shannon Doherty. Okay, look at Shannon
I don't
Doherty.
still watch that
Yeah, you did. I used to watch it because everybody in the school watched it, so I would watch it, and I kept staring at her, and I was thinking, something's wrong with, not wrong, but what's different about her face? Okay, if you ever see a straight-on picture of her, one eye is, I swear, about an eye up. No, and you know what? And if you didn't do that on her portrait, it would look wrong.
It wouldn't look right.
You have to make it look right, because some people were, you know, just trying to recreate nature or something, and they'd say, oh no, it can't be that way, can't be that way. They'd draw it in and it didn't look right. You have to follow what you see. That's the most important thing. There's a little line under the eye, and it's real hard for me to get it with this, but what you basically do is have the little small baby lashes coming out of that. And then as you can see, this is starting to take some shape. If you look at somebody's eyes, and you'll always see a reflection of maybe a light up above or something, and you have to put that in. Otherwise it doesn't work. This is a real large shading tool. This is a good one, and they go all the way down to these little teeny baby ones, you know, that you would use if you were doing some real small details. But these are good. After I put this basic shading in, now I can go back and use these. But if I use the point, I'm going to get a mark. So basically, I think we'll just continue working. I'm going to show how to put the hair in at this point, and then we'll finish these up, but we don't want to, you know, draw forever and not have a lesson involved. So you can see how this is starting. Also, the hair on the eyebrow is small, so just make small strokes. If you make these big long ones, it's going to look fake. So the hitting and lifting again, pushing down, lifting up, you'll get a thick and thin line, and just fill it in like that, because that's how this hair was. If you were going to do somebody with short hair, you would do it that way too. You just make small lines, because that's how the hair went. If you're doing Brandy, you'd make a continual line down. So let's say this lady, we're going to give her some hair. You're going to root it in. And basically, I'm going to put a part. It starts here. I'm going to make longer hair. Have it come out. And when you decide where you're going to put her hair, it's going to, I'm starting here because it's coming out of here. If you look at anybody's hair, it's got some place where it's rooted in. It's not just all falling out. So if you just start putting lines here and here and everywhere, it's not going to look real. So basically, I'm just going to put in the line and lift up my hand, and then you can continue it that way. The ear, you probably, and this girl would probably not be seen, maybe a little bit over here, which I could take out. And again, and now you can see where it matters to have the shading underneath and then put the hair on top. If you didn't do this egg thing, that big, you know, shading first and then put the hair in, you would have to work underneath that hair, and it wouldn't work that well. So you want to actually put your shading in first and then add the hair last. Now let's look over at Brandy over here. It's coming along really, really nicely.
Just have to get that other eye in. I could put a patch. We'll make you a pirate.
It's really good, though. You can see here that there's no line at all. And that's great because it's so soft. It's like the lost and found line. You can see this here where it's light and then it gets dark and then it gets light again. And that's what we're talking about. It's just this wonderful gradual movement out throughout. And that's how you actually would see. It's darker in between, and Brandy's got some really nice full lips, so it's really good to work with her because you have this nice dark under here. So you can see that in that drop beneath the lip as well. So basically, I think we can just finish these up and then take a look at what we have. And then, like I say, we're going to go over to Marlene Amerian's studio and we're going to look at her wonderful sculptures, and she's going to actually explain how she would start to do a sculpture from a model. So that's going to be a fun ending to the show. So I think what we'll do is just work away, and then we'll show you the end result and say ciao for now. Hi, welcome to Carol on Creativity. My name is Carol Peters, and we're on location in the studio of Marlene Amerian. Marlene is a wonderful sculptor, and if you were downtown Gilroy, last month we had the unveiling of 3 beautiful bronze sculptures. Today we're going to interview Marlene, and we're going to actually talk to her about how she would sculpt a portrait. And I'm going to have Marlene just give us a little bit of...
Yeah, hello, I'm Marlene. And
thank you for letting us come to your
you're
studio.
Very welcome. This is where I work, and it's one of the 2 studios I have. When I work small, I work up here. When I work large, I work in my bigger studio. But I wanted to show you a little bit about how I think when I approach a portrait. And it begins really with the skull. The skull is an amazing tool for the student. In any case, there are not that many bones to the skull to learn, but the importance of those bones is extremely necessary to understand how to do a portrait.
We were talking before and was saying that in studying art history, you know, Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci all worked from a skull, and a lot of times that was hard to do in those days, and they'd, you know, have to actually find a underground morgue or something and go in there and actually look at the skeleton and then look at the muscle structure and go up. And that's why drawing is basic, and sculpting. So this is a real important factor no matter what you're doing. I was telling you before in class, when people were having a hard time thinking about that, or if they're on their own, they can also press into their face, and you can get a feel of where the depressions are, you know, under your cheekbones in here. You know, you can feel under in here. You can actually just kind of feel your own head if you're having a problem and don't have a skull, or you don't have, you know, something to actually feel, because feeling is really an important part of drawing.
It is, yes, and sculpture as well. Now, if we look at the skull from the front, we see the orbs, the eye orbs, and that's an opening. It's very deep. This is part of, from the side, the zygomatic arch. It's an actual arch, and you can actually put your finger under the lower jaw, and it also goes through from the top. This arch creates the cheekbone itself. So when we're looking, and when we're looking, I'll show you later on the model, when we're looking at the model, this portion at the very front establishes the direction and the prominence of the cheekbone, as well as the side. As you see here, this bone is going to tell us how wide is the cheekbone. So you're going to be looking at how high is the cheekbone, how wide, and where this flat surface on the front begins and wraps around. That will give you the formation of the cheek. Skeletons really look like they're sad at the eye line, the brow line, and you know, they give you that feeling when you look at them. Because of this, there is a lowering of the eye bone, the brow bone here, but the skeleton also looks happy, and due to the way the barrel of the mouth is formed. If you turn it sideways, you'll readily see the barrel. Now, all of us know that when we eat a sandwich and take a big chunk out of the sandwich, what do? We get a curved shape. That's because the barrel of the mouth is actually a rather large curve. It's almost the temple of the face, that and the forehead. So there's space. And when you turn the skull over, you really see it. So this is the barrel of the mouth and jaw to jaw. Now the jaw to jaw varies. In some people it's wide, and I'll show you on the model later. On some people it's narrow. There's differences in the male and female skull. The brow ridge on the male is generally more prominent and casts a deeper shadow where the eyes are. So we'll go over that on the live model as well. The nasal bone is short, and it's the same, literally almost without exception on every one. And the length of the nose is filled with cartilage. That is flexible. The nostrils are flexible, tip of the nose is flexible, and so on. And that nose will give the individual characteristics that we're looking for on each person. That defines the face. The eyes and the nose are the most definitive areas on the face that we're going to be looking at.
Alan, why don't you come in and we'll just officially introduce you. This is Alan Amerian. This is Marlene's husband. Okay. And he's graciously agreed to be the model today, so we're happy to have you as well.
And now, in looking at the bas-relief I've created of my husband, Alan, put your head up just slightly. Okay. I first had to look very, very closely at his skull. Every one of us has a distinctive skull, distinctive shape, and even though we're all alike, we can see the differences. And here I wanted to show you, when I think about the skull, I'm looking at the outline from the side. Now, I also do this from the front, by the way, but since we have the bas-relief, we're going to let our eye follow around the shape of the skull. You see that the neck is at an angle. The next thing I'm going to look at is the brow bone. Now, the brow bone is one of the most prominent features on our face, aside from the nose. And on men, you see that the brow bone would be heavier than on most females. This can vary, however, creating a shadow under the eyes and a space for the actual eyeball. And it slightly shades the eye, as a matter of fact. So we're going from the brow bone and dropping a plumb line straight down. And if we go out, we see exactly what features we're going to be touching as we go down the face. Now, it slightly touches at the corner of his mouth, at the front of his cheek, that bone at the side here where the cheek begins, and we see how far the chin protrudes from that. So now that we know where the brow bone is and how far the chin protrudes, we can actually discover the individuality of the head that we're doing. So if you look here on the piece, we've got the brow bone, we follow down the corner of the mouth and how far the chin protrudes, and we're not yet dealing with the nose. Now, if we look at the skull, we have the beginning of the nose, and that is the bridge right at the top. And the rest of the nose, and Alan's prominent nose, wonderful, that the rest is cartilage. When I was looking at Alan, I'm looking at several other things as well as I sculpted him. I'm looking at the angle of the ear. Now you see how the angle of the ear is leaning back slightly. All right, so that's basically it.
All right, now we're going to talk a little bit about the drawing process. These are Marlene Amerian's concept renderings of the sculptures that are downtown Gilroy. And you can see this one is John Gilroy. This is James Howick.
Howick.
Howick. How could I not say that right? It's hard to say. And then the last is Electa Owsley and Thomas Ray. And Thomas Ray is shaking hands with Electa, and actually we have the bronze bust of Thomas, and we're going to have Marlene explain a little bit about going from a concept drawing to an actual three-dimensional form, or vice versa.
Now, how do you do that in a sculpture or drawing? Well, first of all, you don't take a generic head of a young man and produce the sculpture. You have to think about what happens with time. You have to know where the bones are, because as we age, the muscles slack, the fat falls, the under the eyebrow we become saggier, and it covers more of the eyelid itself. And these things are not, they're not something that we should think of as negatives. These give a person their character in older age. We'll find that the eyes, the depth of the eye casts a shadow. Now, in older people, the eyes tend to look deeper because they recess. Not only do they recess, but there's a lack of fat around the eye itself. I've used the brow line itself and the heavy eyebrow set and the mustache over the mouth to give the shadows that we need to read from far away. By learning about the skull, the formation of the skull, how the features relate to the whole, you can make those decisions, and it's not a happy accident. So anyway, I hope you continue with your art, and I hope you love it as much as I do.
Well, thank you so much. It's just been a real pleasure.
Thank you very much.
I've admired your work way before I had the pleasure to meet you, and
Thanks.
I appreciate it very much. And also, I'd like to thank Alan, who's sitting over there. And we're going to continue, and we're going to go downtown Gilroy and actually look at the bronze sculptures as they are on the street with people going by. And as Marlene and Alan pointed out, the sculptures are made to be touched. They're not just like a painting where you have to stand away and view. You can actually feel them, you can touch them, you can move around them and actually appreciate them that way. So thank you so much for letting us come into your beautiful studio.
Thank you.
And we'll say ciao for now. Hi, now we're at the corner of 4th and Monterey in downtown Gilroy, standing in front of one of Marlene Amerian's bronze statues. This sculpture is of James Howick, and he is the station master that was in Gilroy. And this is the size. I'm standing next to it so you get a proportion and you can see how big it is. I'm going to move away and we'll just tell you a little bit about James Howick and why he was selected to be part of downtown Gilroy sculptures. Traveling north by foot, horse, or cart along the El Camino Real was several days' journey from southern Santa Clara Valley to the nearest town. Recognizing an opportunity, James Howick began a stage service by building a small split redwood inn and stable close to the eastern corner of Lewis Street. Nailing an empty cigar box to the porch railing, Howick fashioned a mail drop and became the first postmaster. With a mail service established, the rough-hewn stage stop and post office became a map destination that grew into what was to become the city of Gilroy. Now we're on the corner of 6th and Monterey, and we're actually standing in front of Marlene Amerian's statue of John Cameron Gilroy. John Cameron Gilroy depicts hospitality, and what a better place to be than in front of our beautiful city hall. John Cameron Gilroy is standing, and he was a man that was so congenial and so warm and had so many friends, and many people just really, really admired him. He was a mayor of our city, and it's wonderful to have him in front of City Hall because it's a beautiful place to be. Many people are coming through town, and one of the landmarks is our City Hall. And John Gilroy, of course, is a namesake of our beautiful community. So we're happy to be here, and Marlene Amerian did a wonderful job capturing the wonderful likeness of John Cameron Gilroy. And as you can see in her sculpture, she goes to every extent to make the details perfect. So now I think we're just about finished with our pictures, and we'll take a look at them and we'll say goodbye to you, and I hope you've learned a lot today, and I hope you try to draw something. If it's not from a real person, then try to use something from a photograph, because that's fun too. And you can always have your favorite movie star or rock star or somebody that you love, perhaps. Okay,
it's always good to practice on a celebrity.
Yeah, celebrities, because you look at them all the time. You know what they look like. Yeah. All right, so let's take a look.
We're just kind of finishing up on some of the finer details on Brandy, the darkest lines around her eyes, and then we'll pick up, again, we got a lot of smudge marks going on, so we'll kind of clean up some of the areas around the face, on the nose, and the mouth, Just to, so she doesn't look like she's been working out in the farm all day. And then that'll be it.
Yeah, so we talked about the different kinds of paper, and we are absolutely using the worst paper possible. You can see now that mine is pretty much done. You can see the definition. The hair, as it goes up, it gets lighter, and as it goes down, it gets darker. So basically, the shading technique of this is the same thing, hitting, lifting, hitting, lifting, hitting, lifting, coming back and doing the same thing up, and then leaving it lighter in here. You could even leave that out. You don't have to put every strand in the hair. Same thing here. If you wanted to move it down this way and bring it back up. If you had curly hair, you know, you could just put the curls in out like that. But it's basically hitting, lifting, hitting, lifting, hitting, lifting. The same kind of motion that you're pushing, and then your line gets thick to thin, and that really, really works. So you can see in a few minutes you have a completed drawing, very exaggerated shading on this one, and just using light and dark to move the surface backwards and forwards. So I think that's it. We can all get together. Thank you very much for joining Carol on Creativity. We want to thank Gav TV and everybody involved, Marilyn Abad Cardinelli, Anawak, Teresa, Pablo, Barbara, and Melanie and Brandy. Thank you so much for joining us. Everyone say ciao for now.
Ciao for
Ciao
now.
for now.